All right, get ready, because we are diving deep into something that could really change everything we know about data analysis. It's Google's data science agent, and it lives right in Colab.
It's pretty wild. Like, data analysis can sometimes feel like, I don't know, kind of a headache
Oh, yeah.
with all the libraries and the code and the setup and
I
everything.
think a lot.
So imagine if you could just say what you wanted to do with your data, just like in plain English.
Right.
And then, boom, an AI builds a whole Colab notebook for you, and it just
It's
works.
like magic, right? And the craziest thing is, this isn't some far-off future tech.
Right.
This is powered by Google's Gemini AI, and it's live in Colab right now. So to really break this down, we've got the Google Developers blog post and a YouTube video from Growth Learner, both about the data science agent.
And what's so cool about this is how it uses Colab, which is free for everyone to use, and combines that with the power of Gemini. Like, it's this perfect combo of accessibility and cutting-edge AI.
Okay, so let's walk through how this magic actually works. You start with a blank Colab notebook, upload your data, and then get this. You just tell the AI what you want to analyze. Like, literally, you type it in plain English.
Yeah, and it's not just giving you like little bits of code.
Right.
It's building a whole working notebook, and then you can just run it and you can change it however you need.
It's like, here's your analysis, ready to go, fully coded. And because it's all in Colab, it's super easy to share with others, to work together on projects, all that.
It's definitely a game changer. Like, think about how much time this could save people.
Right. No more spending hours on setup or debugging code.
Exactly, and it lets you focus on actually understanding the data.
And speaking of understanding data, this data science agent went head-to-head with some other really powerful AI agents on this benchmark called the Hugging Face Data Agent Benchmark.
It's basically a test to see how well these agents can handle different data analysis tasks.
Right, and guess what? The data science agent took 4th place.
Which is really impressive, especially when you consider that it beat out some agents that were based on GPT 4.0.
Yeah, so it's clearly a really capable system. And the blog post actually gives some examples you can try yourself, like, specific data sets and prompts.
Oh, yeah, that's a great way to get a feel for how it works.
Like they say, upload the Stack Overflow annual developer survey,
Mm-hmm.
and then ask the agent to visualize the most popular programming languages. Or use the Iris species dataset and tell it to calculate and visualize different types of correlations. There's even a prompt for training a random forest classifier on the glass classification dataset.
And those data sets are all available for free, too, so you can just jump right in.
Yeah, like they really want you to try this out. But okay, so we've talked about the theory, but seeing it in action is a whole other thing.
Right, you got to see it to believe it.
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
And that's where the Growth Learner YouTube video comes in.
Mm.
They show the data science agent doing its thing, analyzing customer purchase behavior, and building a model to predict repeat customers.
What really impressed me in that video was how the agent actually caught an error in one of the analyses.
Oh yeah, that was a good catch.
Because a data field was missing.
Yeah.
Like, that's a level of detail that you don't usually see in AI tools.
It's like having a super smart assistant that's double-checking your work, making sure you don't miss anything critical.
And in that customer prediction example, it flagged a potential issue with the model's performance being too perfect.
Like, hey, maybe something's a little fishy here.
Exactly. Which brings up a really important point, Even with these advanced AI tools, you still need a human to be involved.
Right, to make sure the results make sense, to interpret them in the right context, to use a little common sense.
Absolutely. The video also talks about how important it is to engineer good prompts, meaning the way you ask your questions makes a big difference.
For sure, you can't just be vague and expect the AI to read your mind.
You got to be specific. Give it clear instructions and make sure your data is organized in a way that the AI can understand. It's like having a conversation with a really smart data scientist. The more precise you are, the better the results you're going to get.
Yeah, good point. And one of the things the video mentioned is that right now, you can't have a back and forth conversation with the agent.
Oh, so you can't ask follow-up questions or clarify things?
Not yet, at least.
Yeah.
But they said that's something they're working on.
Which would be awesome.
Right. Like, imagine being able to refine your analysis by just talking to the AI.
It would be like having a real-time brainstorming session with a data expert.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But even without that, this is already a huge step forward. What do you think this could mean for someone who doesn't have a whole data science team, like a small business owner, for example?
I think the potential is massive.
Right.
Like, imagine being able to analyze your sales data, understand your customer trends, make better decisions about inventory.
Marketing, pricing, all of that.
Right. Exactly. And all without needing to hire a data scientist or learn how to code.
It's like leveling the playing field for anyone who wants to use data to make better decisions.
And that's really exciting, I think, to see how this technology could democratize data analysis.
Okay, so before we get too carried away, we do need to remember that even this super smart AI isn't perfect.
Right, it's still a tool.
And like any tool, it can be used well or it can be misused.
And the video actually gives an example where the agent miscalculated a conversion rate just to show that, it's not infallible.
Yeah, it's a good reminder that we always need to validate the results to use our own judgment and critical thinking skills.
Absolutely. AI is a powerful tool, but it's still just a tool. It's not a replacement for human intelligence.
Right. It's about using these tools intelligently and responsibly.
And that brings up a really interesting question. If this technology becomes as widely used as, say, spreadsheets are today, what happens to the data science profession itself?
Yeah, does it become obsolete or does it evolve in some way?
That's something we'll definitely dig into in the next part of our deep dive. But for now, I think it's safe to say that the landscape of data analysis is about to change dramatically, and it's going to be fascinating to see how it all plays out.
I agree. All right, everyone, stay tuned for part 2, where we'll tackle those bigger picture implications of the data science agent and explore what this all means for the future of data itself.
So, picking up where we left off, with this whole idea of the data science agent changing the game for everyone.
Yeah.
It's not just about small business owners like we were talking about before.
Right.
It could really impact pretty much every field you can think of.
Right, we hear all the time about AI revolutionizing things like healthcare, finance, you name it.
Exactly.
But this tool feels like it could actually make that happen, like now.
I think so too. Like, imagine doctors using this to analyze patient data and being able to identify risk factors, way earlier.
Or even predict, like, the likelihood of someone developing a certain condition.
Right, exactly. And it's not just about diagnosis and treatment either.
Right.
Think about using this agent to, make hospitals run more smoothly.
Oh, interesting.
Allocate resources better, even design better public health campaigns.
Wow, yeah, the possibilities are pretty mind-blowing.
Definitely.
What about finance? I feel like that's another area where this could really take off.
Oh, for sure. Financial analysts could use this to analyze market trends, assess risk, maybe even find new investment opportunities.
It makes you wonder if, like, human stockbrokers will even be a thing in a few years.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, even if AI takes over some of the, more routine tasks,
Right.
I think there will always be a need for human judgment,
Right, that intuition.
especially when it comes to those really complex financial decisions.
Yeah, it's not just about the numbers, right? There's so much more to it.
Exactly, like understanding the context, the bigger picture,
The human.
all the things that you can't really capture in a data set.
And speaking of the human element, what about creative fields
Oh, that's interesting.
like art, music, writing? Could this technology even impact those areas?
We've already seen AI being used to, compose music, create visual art,
Right.
but could this data science agent push things even further?
Like, imagine an artist using this to analyze their past work.
Right, to identify recurring themes or patterns.
Or even to come up with new ideas based on their style.
Yeah, exactly. Or a writer could use it to experiment with different storytelling structures.
Or try out new genres.
It's like having an AI muse,
It could help them break out of their creative rut.
push the boundaries of what's possible.
And it's not just about individual creativity, right?
Yeah.
Think about using it to analyze audience data.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. Like understanding trends and cultural preferences.
Or predicting which movies or books are going to be successful.
That's getting a little Black Mirror-ish, I guess.
Yeah, a little bit.
But it's definitely possible.
Okay, so we've talked about all this amazing potential, but let's be real for a second.
Right.
There have to be some challenges with all of this,
Ah,
right?
absolutely. I mean, one of the biggest ones is making sure that these AI agents are actually reliable, that we can trust them.
Right, because they might be able to generate code and insights super fast, but how do we know they're not making mistakes?
Yeah, or misinterpreting the data in a way that could lead to, bad decisions.
It's like trusting a GPS that's 99% accurate.
Right.
Most of the time, it's fine. But that 1% could be a disaster,
Exactly. So we need to work on developing AI that we can understand
where we can see how it's making its decisions.
so we can spot those potential biases or errors.
It's like having a show your work feature for AI.
I like that analogy.
So we're not just taking its word for it blindly.
Right. And another challenge is accessibility.
Even if these tools become widely available, not everyone knows how to use them.
Exactly. Not everyone has that data literacy.
So it's not enough to just build the technology.
We need to educate people on how to use it responsibly.
Develop ethical guidelines, create a culture of critical thinking around data analysis.
It's a big task, but it's crucial if we want to use AI for good.
Okay, so switching gears a bit.
Okay.
We've talked about the big picture, but I'm curious to explore how this technology could reshape specific industries.
Oh, yeah. Let's get into the details.
Like we touched on healthcare and finance, but what about other sectors?
Well, healthcare is a great place to start. All right, so healthcare, right. We were talking about how this data science agent could change things.
Yeah, it feels like there's a lot of potential there.
A lot of potential. Imagine doctors being able to use this agent to look at patient data in real time
Hmm.
and be able to spot things like risk factors or even predict if someone might develop a certain condition.
It sounds kind of futuristic, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's like straight out of Star Trek or something.
But seriously, that kind of personalized medicine could really be amazing.
Oh, yeah, it could completely change how we approach healthcare.
And it's not just about diagnosis and treatment either, right?
Right, exactly. Think about using the agent to make hospitals run more efficiently.
Oh, interesting.
Like, figuring out the best way to use resources or even designing public health campaigns that actually work.
Wow. Yeah, there's so many possibilities.
Definitely. And then there's finance, which we touched on earlier.
Right, that feels like another area where this could really explode.
Oh, for sure. Like, imagine analysts using this to really understand market trends.
Mm-hmm.
Figure out how much risk is involved in certain investments.
Maybe even discover new investment opportunities that nobody's thought of before.
Exactly. It could lead to like a whole new wave of algorithmic trading strategies, all powered by AI.
It makes you wonder if human stockbrokers will even have jobs in a few years.
Yeah, that's a good question, isn't it? But even if AI takes over some of the more like routine parts of the job,
Right.
I think there will always be a need for that human element.
Right, because it's not just about the numbers, is it?
Exactly. You need that intuition, that ability to see the bigger picture, to understand all the things that a data set might not capture.
Okay, so we've talked about healthcare, finance. What about something totally different?
Oh.
Like, what about creative fields? Do you think this technology could even impact areas like art, music, writing?
It's funny you should mention that because we've already seen AI being used to create art and music.
Right, like composing songs or generating images.
Exactly. But could this data science agent take it to another level?
I don't know. How do you mean?
Well, imagine an artist using this to analyze their own work,
Oh, interesting.
like to find patterns or themes that they might not even be aware of.
Or to get inspiration for new pieces based on
Yeah.
their existing style.
Right, exactly. Or a writer could use it to experiment with different ways of telling a story.
Or try out new genres.
It's like having an AI muse, to help you push your creative boundaries.
It could help artists break out of their creative ruts, maybe discover new things about themselves and their work.
Exactly. And it's not just about individual creation either.
Right.
Think about using it to understand audience preferences.
Oh, that's interesting.
Like what kind of art or music people are responding to.
Or even predicting which movies or books are going to be hits.
It gets a little bit Black Mirror-ish, maybe.
Yeah, a little bit.
But it's definitely within the realm of possibility.
Okay, so we've talked about all this incredible potential, but let's get real for a second.
Yeah.
There have to be some challenges that come with all of this, right?
Absolutely. Like one of the biggest ones is making sure that these AI agents are actually reliable.
Right, because they might be able to generate insights super fast, but how do we know they're not making mistakes?
Exactly. And if they are making mistakes, it could have some serious consequences, especially in fields like healthcare or finance.
Right, like a wrong diagnosis or a bad investment decision.
So we need to be very careful about how we develop and use these tools.
So what can we do about that?
Well, one thing is to focus on developing what's called explainable AI.
Explainable AI. What's that?
It's basically AI that we can understand, where we can see how it's arriving at its conclusions.
Oh, I see.
So we can spot any potential biases or errors in its reasoning.
They're like having a show your work feature for AI, right?
Exactly. So we're not just blindly accepting whatever it tells us.
Makes sense. What about other challenges?
Well, another big one is accessibility.
Right, because Even if these tools become widely available, not everyone will know how to use them properly.
Exactly. You need a certain level of data literacy to really take advantage of these tools.
So it's not enough to just build the technology. We also need to educate people on how to use it responsibly.
Absolutely. We need to invest in data literacy programs, develop ethical guidelines for AI use, and really create a culture of critical thinking around data.
It's a big task, but it's crucial if we want to use AI for good and avoid some of the potential pitfalls.
Couldn't agree more. And I think that brings us to the end of our deep dive.
Wow, yeah, we covered a lot of ground.
We did. We talked about the technical details of the data science agent, the potential impact on all kinds of industries, the challenges, the ethical considerations.
It's been a fascinating conversation.
It really has. And I hope our listeners are walking away with a better understanding of this technology and what it could mean for the future.
Me too. It's definitely a lot to think about, but it's exciting to see how this all unfolds.
It is. The future of data science is going to be anything but boring.
That's for sure. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone.